We're very grateful to you and your leadership, and not only for our country but for all the world, as these nuclear weapons pose a threat to all humanity. This is a pattern. We've seen it over and over again, as Alan Dershowitz said. So perhaps now it is a good segue to introduce an individual who spent his career uncovering patterns of corruption and immorality. Not only has Richard Benveniste been on the commission to investigate one of the greatest crimes against the United States, the 9/11 attacks, but he distinguished himself as the lead prosecutor on the Watergate Task Force investigating corruption at the highest levels of government in our own country. And he has been tasked with the job of investigating the historic record in World War II towards Germany and Japan and war crimes of that era. So this is a gentleman who has seen patterns of behavior, whether it was the Holocaust or whether it was Japan and the imperialist regime, or whether it was corruption here in our own country through Watergate, or whether it was the 9/11 Commission. We have someone who can speak to patterns of behavior of those who are corrupt throughout not only American history, but history of the world. It's my honor to introduce to you Richard Benveniste.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for that introduction, Patrick Kennedy. The Bipartisan National Commission on Terrorist Acts Against the United States, better known as the 9/11 Commission, made a number of recommendations to Congress and to the President as part of our final report. Among the most significant from a security standpoint was our recommendation to maximize counterproliferation efforts targeting weapons of mass destruction, expanding the Proliferation Security Initiative, and supporting the Cooperative Threat Reduction Program. In another important recommendation, the Commission called upon America to stand up for its values aggressively and define itself in the Islamic world. Both of those recommendations are central to my remarks today. The Arab Spring movement has provided America with an opportunity to allow our values to define us in the Middle East. For too long, we have followed a simple and short-sighted goal of expediency in dealing with autocratic, repressive regimes, rather than trusting that the principles upon which our nation was founded and on which it has flourished as a beacon for all freedom-loving peoples to see, could over time replace the anti-democratic demagogues and dictators and regimes that have long ruled those countries. Two recent events inform my view that strong coalition action by the United States and our allies must be applied to condemn the reckless and reprehensible activities of the Iranian regime. The first, of course, is the report released on November 8, 2011 by the IAEA to its Board of Governors and to the UN Security Council. The report plainly puts the lie to the consistent denials by the regime of any interest, much less action, in developing nuclear weapons. To the contrary, the report details a well-structured and carefully organized nuclear weapons program, specifying that there are indications that Iran is preparing to produce weapons-grade fissile material at some point in the future. that Iran has the technology to prepare such fissile material to use in a weapon, that Iran also is acquiring or has already acquired the specialized detonators and technology needed for a weapon, that Iran may now be able to fully integrate those technologies into a bomb, that Iran may be conducting simultaneous simulations of key aspects of nuclear weapons development, that new data indicate that Iran is moving towards modeling weapons designs, that there now is further evidence that Iran is developing neutron initiators needed to sustain a fissile reaction and produce high yields from a fissile weapon, that Iran seems to be actively developing nuclear missile warheads, and that in a new development, the IAEA reports that Iran may be preparing for future testing. The second recent development regarding Iran, regarding and warranting reassessment of this situation, is the alleged plot to assassinate the Saudi Arabian ambassador here in the United States under circumstances that would also involve the loss of American lives. Either way, a very disquieting indication of continued criminal proclivity by a would-be nuclear power. There is no disputing the regime's long history of profound disrespect for the norms of international law and human rights. Its president, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, half clown, half thug, denies the Holocaust from one side of his mouth while pledging to wipe Israel off the map from the other. The prospect of a nuclear bully in the Mideast willing to engage in criminal and reckless behavior as reflected in the Saudi ambassador assassination plot, talking up an apocalyptic and perhaps suicidal end of times rhetoric, resets the level of bellicosity on all sides. It may well be in Ahmadinejad's short-term parochial interest to spew the kind of rhetoric for which he has become infamous. But he and those who truly make the decisions in Iran today, such as Ayatollah Khamenei, must be made to understand the danger of playing a half-court game in a full-court world. In my view, the only kind of sanctions that truly jeopardize the mullah's regime will have a chance of success in curbing Iran's nuclear weapons ambitions. No option, including a military option, should be off the table. Sanctions and boycotts of refined gasoline sold in Europe, accounting for significant hard currency, should be employed. Surely French satellite transmissions relied upon by Iran can be denied given President Sarkozy's view that an Iranian nuclear bomb is the single greatest threat to world security. Certainly, the covert campaign of sabotage against Iran's nuclear weapons development program, such as Stuxnet and targeted violence, can and should be ratcheted up. Finally, the Iranian banking system and Iran's ability to conduct international business can be targeted by a variety of methods at our disposal. The Obama administration has welcomed the IAEA findings and has declaimed the hypocrisy and outright lies of the regime's continuing denials. In my view, we must support the administration's continuing efforts to ratchet up sanctions and building consensus, while walking the difficult line created by the harsh economic circumstances that confront us all today, and how those circumstances may be exacerbated by new sanctions. This process will require great skill and judgment. But in the end, we must not waver from using the great power that we possess to achieve the just ends we seek. Thank you very much.